At my father's funeral, a stranger whispered, "You were never his child." I thought the worst part of my father's funeral would be lowering him into the ground, the silence, the prayers, the finality. I was wrong. The worst part came after, when a stranger leaned in, brushed past the flowers, and whispered into my ear, "You were never his child." The words felt like ice sliding down my spine. I turned sharply, but the man was already walking away, blending into the sea of black coats and bowed heads. I'd never seen him before, not once, not in family photos, not at holidays, not even in stories my father told me before bed. And Dad loved stories. He built his entire world out of them. He built me out of them. I waited until the last person left the cemetery before I asked my mother. She stiffened immediately. "What stranger?" she said, her voice trembling, too fast, too quickly. "The man who talked to me. He said I wasn't Dad's child." My mother's eyes darted toward the grave, then toward the path where the stranger disappeared, then away from me completely. "People say cruel things when emotions run high," she whispered. "Ignore it." But that was the moment I knew. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't confused. She was terrified. And terror doesn't come from lies. It comes from the truth. That night, while everyone else was eating casserole dishes dropped off by neighbors and pretending we were a normal grieving family, I slipped into my father's office. The room smelled like his cologne, pine and old books. Steady, comforting, safe. Exactly the opposite of how I felt. I opened drawers he never let me touch. I sifted through tax forms, legal papers, old letters. Nothing. But behind a stock of dusty binders, taped to the back wall of the cabinet, I found a small envelope. My name was written on it, and my father's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, not a letter, a birth certificate. Not my birth certificate, not the one my mother always kept in a plastic folder. This one had a different hospital, a different town, a different date, and under father, the line was blank. My breath caught in my throat. I read it again and again and again. Blank. My father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who sat through every school play even when I forgot my lines, who held my hand after nightmares, wasn't biologically connected to me. But that wasn't the part that shattered me. At the bottom of the envelope was a second document, a court order, closed adoption, sealed identity, termination of maternal rights, and then, in handwriting that wasn't my father's, a note, "She can never know." My hands shook so hard the papers slipped onto the floor. Why? Why hide the truth? Why keep this secret buried so deeply it could only surface once he was gone? When I went back to the living room, my mother was waiting, her face pale, her eyes red, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. "You found it," she said softly. It wasn't a question. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked. She closed her eyes like the answer hurt her physically. "Because he asked me not to." "Why?" I demanded. "Why would he hide something like this from me?" When she finally met my gaze, her expression broke into something fragile. "Your biological father," she swallowed hard, "he wasn't a good man." The room fell silent. "He hurt people," she whispered. "He hurt your mother. He hurt anyone who got close. When she realized she couldn't protect you, she ran. She begged your father, the man who raised you, to take you, to love you, to give you a life she couldn't." My throat tightened. "And the man at the funeral?" I asked. She flinched. "I think that was his brother." "My biological uncle?" "Yes," she said. "And if he knows who you are, he might not be the only one." The weight of her words settled like a cold stone in my chest. Everything I thought I knew about my family, my history, my identity, fractured in a single moment. Dad hadn't just loved me. He had shielded me, hidden me, protected me from a truth that was darker than I ever imagined. And whoever whispered to me at the funeral, he didn't say it to hurt me. He said it because something was coming, something my father spent his whole life trying to keep away. And now, with Dad gone, there was no one left standing between me and the past he fought to bury. No one except me. I found adoption papers with my name, and the signature wasn't my mother's. I was only cleaning out the attic. That's all it was supposed to be. Another forgotten Saturday, dust in the air, old boxes piled like gravestones of memories no one touched anymore. My mother had passed away 3 months earlier, and the house felt like a museum of her absence. Every drawer, every closet was a reminder of the things she left behind, and the things she never told me. The box I opened shouldn't have been there. A plain gray file box tucked behind Christmas decorations, its lid taped shut like someone didn't want it opened. My name, Daniel, was written on a yellowing label in handwriting that wasn't hers. My heart beat faster as I peeled back the tape. Inside were documents, hospital records, photos of me as an infant, a bracelet from a maternity ward, and then near the bottom, an envelope marked, "For when he's old enough." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were adoption papers. My adoption papers. My name, my date of birth. And under the line that said adoptive mother was a signature, not my mother's. Not even close. I froze. For a moment, the entire attic felt like it tilted sideways. My mother, my best friend, my anchor, had lied to me about the most fundamental part of my existence. Why? I stumbled downstairs, papers in hand, my breath shallow and broken. I called my father, even though we hadn't spoken much since the funeral. When he arrived, he took one look at the documents and went pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded. "Why did you let me grow up believing?" He cut me off. "Daniel, I had no idea you were adopted." That made no sense. How could he not know? They'd been married, they raised me together. They fought for me, loved me, disciplined me, cheered for me. How could a father not know his own son wasn't biologically his? He sat heavily at the kitchen table, rubbing his forehead like trying to summon memories he'd spent a lifetime burying. He said, "It happened before I met your mother," he said slowly. "She told me you had her young. She told me your father walked out. I believed her. I never doubted her." I stared at him, my world already cracking, shattered further. So she adopted me alone? And she hid it from both of us. My father nodded, eyes red. "She must have had a reason. Your mother, she was a good woman." I believed that. I truly did, which somehow made it worse. I flipped through the papers, searching for a name, any name that would explain why she'd kept this secret. At the bottom of the stack, I found it. The biological mother's name, and next to it, handwritten in the margin, in my mother's handwriting, "Do not contact her. Dangerous." My breath caught. Dangerous? My mother had never used that word lightly. She was gentle, soft-spoken, frightened of storms and stray dogs. If she labeled someone dangerous, she meant it. I turned the page over and found a phone number scribbled beside another sentence. "If he ever finds out, call this man. He will protect him." There was a name beneath it, a name I'd never heard in my life. Before I could ask my father if he recognized it, the front door knocked, not gently, not politely. 3 heavy, deliberate bangs. My father stiffened. "Did you tell anyone you found the papers?" "No," I whispered. The knock came again, harder this time. My father motioned for me to stay quiet. He approached the door slowly, cautiously, and looked through the peephole. He went completely still. "Dad, who is it?" He didn't answer for a long, terrifying moment. Finally, in a voice so low I could barely hear it, he said, "It's him, the man your mother warned us about." And then the third knock echoed through the house. "Daniel, open the door. We need to talk about your mother." I opened my grandma's old diary, and every page had my name written in fear. My grandma always looked at me like she wanted to say something, but never could. Not on my birthdays, not on holidays, not even on the night she grabbed my hand with trembling fingers and whispered, "Promise me you'll always lock your door at night." I laughed, thinking it was just age, confusion, nightmares. But after she died, I realized she had never been confused. She had been terrified. We began cleaning out her house a week after the funeral. It still smelled like her. Lavender soap and old books. My dad told me to take anything I wanted to remember her by, so I wandered into her bedroom. There, inside the bottom drawer of her nightstand, wrapped in a scarf, was a little leather diary. My name was written on the front. Not to me, just my name, underlined twice. I opened it. The first page made my stomach drop. "She's here now. God help us." I flipped to the next. "I don't know how to protect her." Then the next. "He said it's starting again." Every page was dated years before I was even born. My hands shook as I turned the pages faster. And then my name, Anna, written in shaky handwriting again and again, sometimes circled, sometimes smudged like she'd been crying over the paper. "Anna is the one. Anna is in danger. Anna must never know." My breath hitched. Why was my name in a diary written before I existed? I kept reading. "He came to the house today. He said a child will be born who carries the same mark, the same curse. He says it will happen in my bloodline. I didn't believe him until I saw her. Her. Who was her? At the bottom of the page was a note. Protect the child with the eyes that see too much. My eyes. I'd heard that phrase before from Grandma every time she stared at me too long. I turned to the next page, blank. Then the next, blank. Dozens of empty pages until one final entry written years later, dated only 3 months before she died. The ink looked fresh. It skipped her mother. It didn't skip her. I see it now. I see it in the way she watches the dark corners, in the way she wakes up before anyone enters the room, in the way the house reacts when she cries. I felt the room tilt. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. He came back. Those words were underlined, hard, desperate. I didn't know who he was, but apparently Grandma did. He asked if she was ready, if she remembered. She didn't. Thank God. But I don't think we have much time. I slammed the diary shut. The room suddenly felt too cold, too still, too watchful. "Anna?" my dad called from downstairs. "You okay?" I didn't answer. I opened the diary again and flipped back to the first page, searching for anything, any explanation. And then, tucked in the back pocket of the cover, I felt something. A photograph. Old, yellowed, torn at the edges. A little girl stood in front of Grandma's house. Her hair was long. Her dress was dirty. Her eyes, my heart jumped into my throat. Her eyes were mine. Not similar, not close, exactly mine. On the back of the photo, scribbled in rushed handwriting, "The first one." I stumbled backwards so fast I hit the dresser. The first one? What first one? Before I could process anything, the floorboard behind me creaked. Not the house settling, not the wind. A soft, deliberate step, slow, close. I turned around. Nothing was there, but I could feel it. The same presence Grandma always looked over her shoulder for. The same fear behind every page of her diary. The same reason she always told me, "Lock your door at night, sweetheart. Never forget." I looked down at the diary one last time. A line I'd missed earlier stood out like it was glowing. "When she starts reading this, he will come." And in that moment, with the air turning colder and the house suddenly too quiet, I finally understood why my name was written in fear, and my grandma never dared to tell me the truth. My dad cried for the first time when he said she was never supposed to find out. I had never seen my father cry. Not when he broke his arm in front of me when I was 8, not when we buried my grandmother, not even when my mother packed her bags and left us for 3 months, only to return like nothing happened. But that night, the night everything cracked open, I watched his entire world collapse in front of me, one trembling breath at a time. It started with a box, a stupid wooden box hidden in the back of my mother's closet, wedged behind coats she hadn't worn in years. I found it while looking for old photos for a memorial project at school. I expected dusty albums, maybe love letters. What I didn't expect was my own name carved on the lid. Inside were documents I didn't recognize. Letters written in a woman's handwriting I'd never seen before. Medical files with dates that didn't match my memories. And at the bottom, a birth certificate. Mine. But the mother's name wasn't hers, and the father's name wasn't his. When I came downstairs holding the papers, my father was washing dishes, humming the same old tune he always hummed when he was trying not to think too hard. I stood there in silence until he finally looked at me. "What's wrong?" he asked. I handed him the birth certificate. He froze. The color drained from his face so quickly I thought he might faint. His eyes locked on the names that weren't his or my mother's, and for the first time in my life, his hands began to shake. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. I told him. He sank into a chair as if his legs stopped working. His breath hitched, and then, slow, broken, like something inside him had finally given way, tears began rolling down his cheeks. "Dad," I whispered, terrified. "What is this? What does it mean?" He covered his face with his hands. I had never seen him look so small, so defeated. "She wasn't supposed to find out," he said, voice cracking. "Not her. Not you. No one." I felt the room tilt. "Find out what?" He took a long, shaking breath. "Your mother, she couldn't have children." That sentence alone hit me like a punch.
But he wasn't done, not even close. She wanted you more than anything in the world. She thought if she admitted she couldn't have kids, she'd lose me. She thought I'd leave. His voice trembled harder. So she adopted you secretly, behind my back, behind everyone's back. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it echoing in my ears. But how could she hide something like that from you? He let out a hollow, bitter laugh. Because she knew I loved you the moment she put you in my arms. She knew once I held you, I'd never ask another question. He wiped his face, but the tears kept coming. I begged her to tell you the truth. I told her one day it would hurt you more if she hid it, but she was terrified. Terrified you'd think she wasn't your real mother. Terrified you'd choose me over her. Terrified you'd resent her. I swallowed hard. My throat burned. Dad, why didn't you tell me? He looked up at me with eyes full of pain I'd never seen before. Because I promised her, he whispered. I promised I'd protect her secret, no matter what, even if it killed me. My hands tightened around the documents. And the letters? The woman who wrote them, who is she? He hesitated. Too long, too deeply. And that silence told me everything before he said a word. She's your biological mother, he whispered. She tried to get you back. My entire body went cold. She found your mother, threatened her, told her she'd ruin everything. Your mother hid those letters because she was afraid she'd lose you. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Every memory, all the years, all the love, all the lies crashed together in a storm I wasn't ready for. Dad, why now? Why tell me this now? He looked up at me, eyes red, voice raw. Because you found the truth, he said, and I can't lie to you anymore. He reached for my hand. You are my child, not by blood, but by choice and by love, and nothing changes that. And in that moment, as he held on like he was afraid I'd disappear too, I realized something. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't created by cruelty, but by love that's too afraid to lose.
My mom's last voicemail said, "Don't trust your brother." Now I know why. My mom almost never left voicemails. If she couldn't reach me, she'd text. If she couldn't text, she'd wait. So when I saw a missed call and a 13-second voicemail from her, timestamped just 2 hours before her car accident, I felt something inside me twist. Her voice was trembling, panicked, like she was trying to speak through tears. "Honey, if you get this, just don't trust your brother. Please. Not until I explain. I love you." That was it. Cut off. Abrupt. Like someone ended the call for her. I listened to it 20 times that night. My brother, Nathan, sat in the living room with his face buried in his hands, pretending to grieve, pretending to care, pretending to be the perfect son he never was. He didn't know I had the voicemail yet. He didn't know that every time he touched my shoulder, every time he said, "We'll get through this," every time he pretended to comfort me, I heard Mom's voice in my head. "Don't trust your brother." At first, I didn't want to believe it. Nathan was distant, cold at times, but he wasn't violent. He wasn't cruel. He was just detached, secretive. A man with too many locked drawers, too many late-night phone calls, too many family things he refused to talk about. 3 days after the funeral, I finally listened to my instincts. He left the house early, claiming he needed air, but he forgot something. His tablet. It buzzed with notifications non-stop, messages from a contact saved as MK. At first, I thought it was a coworker. Then I opened the thread, and my blood ran cold. MK. She knows something. Handle it. Nathan. I'm trying. She won't back off. MK. Your mother tried to warn her. That's a problem. Nathan, I'll take care of it, like we planned. Plans. Warnings. Taking care of it. The words didn't sound like work. They sounded like threats. My hands were shaking when I scrolled further. There was a photo of my mother, standing in the driveway, taken from inside a car I recognized, Nathan's, and the timestamp, 1 hour before her accident. My stomach dropped. I felt like the entire room was spinning. I replayed the voicemail in my mind, hearing her fear with new clarity. Don't trust your brother. She wasn't being paranoid. She wasn't confused. She knew something that got her killed. When Nathan returned home, I forced myself to act normal. He walked in with that same hollow expression, but there was something behind it. Relief, like he believed everything was finally over. "Doing okay?" he asked softly. His hand landed on my shoulder. I tried not to flinch. "Trying," I whispered. His smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, I didn't sleep. I went through every drawer, every old file, every box in the attic. Mom's handwriting was everywhere. Grocery lists, recipes,
tiny notes tucked into books. But then I found something tucked inside an old photo frame, a letter, unfinished, addressed to me. Sweetheart, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to tell you in time. Your brother, he made a mistake years ago, a dangerous one. He owes people money, bad people, the kind who don't forgive. I helped hide it. I thought I could fix it before it reached you. I was wrong. Be careful, please. And don't.
My sister vanished 12 years ago, and last night she knocked on my door. I hadn't heard her name spoken out loud in years. In my family, Emily became a ghost, someone we talked about only in lowered voices, someone whose absence lived in the cracks of every holiday, every empty chair. She disappeared when she was 15, leaving behind a half-finished glass of milk and a bedroom window cracked open. No note, no signs of struggle, no explanation, just gone. For 12 years, I memorized her face from old photographs because I was terrified I'd forget her. Terrified that forgetting meant accepting she was dead. My parents never recovered. My mother stopped laughing. My father stopped talking about the future. And eventually, they stopped talking to each other. Our house became a shrine of silence, every room filled with the memory of what we'd lost. So when the knock came at 2:14 a.m. last night, I thought it was a dream, or a memory, or maybe just the house settling like it always did at night. But the knocking came again. 3 slow taps. My heart seized in my chest. I opened the door only a few inches. And there she was, Emily. Same eyes, same freckles, but older, hollowed out, exhausted, shaking like she'd run miles. Her clothes were damp, like she'd walked through rain. Her hair was longer, darker, and her expression, God, her expression was something I'd never seen on her face before, a mixture of terror and relief. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. My knees nearly gave out. I tried to speak, ask where she'd been, how she found me, whether she was hurt, but she pushed past me and locked the door behind us like someone was chasing her. She scanned every corner of my apartment, checked the windows, pulled the curtains shut. Em, what happened to you? I finally asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she sat on the edge of the couch and stared at her hands. Her fingers trembled. There were scars. Thin, pale lines crossing her palms, like someone had tried to erase her. I wasn't supposed to come back, she said quietly. They told me it would put you in danger. My lungs froze. Who told you that? She looked up at me, eyes swimming with tears. The people who took me. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Every missing poster, every search party, every sleepless night. None of it prepared me for this moment. She wasn't lost. She was taken. And she had escaped. Em, we need to go to the police. No, she grabbed my arm, gripping hard. You don't understand. They're still watching. They're always watching. Her voice cracked and a sob escaped her, raw and broken. I sat beside her, wrapping my arms around her like I used to when she had nightmares. Except now, I was the one shaking. She leaned into me, whispering through tears. I didn't mean to leave you. I tried to come back. They wouldn't let me. And now that I'm here, they'll come for you too. A cold weight settled in my stomach. Who are they? I whispered. Emily squeezed her eyes shut. People who wanted something from us. Something Mom and Dad never told us about. I felt my blood run cold. Our parents, who died still searching for her, had kept secrets? Emily pulled something from her pocket. A folded piece of paper, faded and stained. She placed it in my hand. Everything starts with this, she said. I opened it. It wasn't a note. It wasn't a map. It was a birth certificate. Not hers. Not mine. A third child. A sibling we never knew existed. And the signature at the bottom, the mother's name, wasn't my mom's. Before I could speak, there was another knock at the door. Slow. Measured. Like the person on the other side already knew we were frozen in fear. Emily's face drained of color. They found us, she whispered, and every light in the apartment went out. They raised me like a daughter, until the day I learned I was actually their hostage. I used to believe my childhood was strange in the way all lonely childhoods are. A big house in the middle of nowhere, no neighbors, no relatives,
No school, just textbooks at the kitchen table and a smile that never quite reached Mom's eyes. They weren't cruel. That was the worst part. They were kind, overly kind. The kind of kindness that felt rehearsed, like they were following a script they didn't fully understand. They called me their miracle, their precious girl, their blessing from God after years of loss. And for 17 years, I believed them until the day the van pulled into the driveway. I'll never forget the way Dad stiffened when he saw it. He stepped in front of me, blocking the window, voice trembling as he said, "Go to your room. Don't come out." I didn't listen. I hid at the top of the stairs, peeking through the railing. 2 men in suits stepped out of the van. They weren't selling anything. They weren't lost. They walked with purpose, like people who had spent years looking for something they finally found. Or someone. "Is she here?" one of the men asked. Dad's voice cracked. "No, you're too late. She's ours now. Ours, not mine, not family." Something inside me turned cold. The men didn't argue. They simply handed him an envelope and said 2 words that shattered everything I thought I knew. "It's over." Mom was crying before the men had even driven away. Not scared crying, guilty crying. The kind of crying people do when they get caught. "What's happening?" I asked, stepping into the living room. Both of them spun around. I had never seen their faces like that, white as snow, breath shaking so violently it sounded like a gasp. "Sweetheart, everything's okay," Mom whispered, but her eyes were begging. "Please believe me. Please don't ask." I walked past them and grabbed the envelope from the table. They didn't stop me. Inside was a photograph, a woman holding a little girl. The woman was smiling. The little girl had my eyes, me. On the back, a date was written in messy handwriting. The date I turned 4, the year I stopped remembering my birth mother's face. The room spun. "What is this?" I whispered. Dad sank onto the couch like his legs couldn't carry the weight anymore. He said, "You weren't supposed to find out like this. We wanted to tell you when it was safe." "When what was safe?" I shouted. Mom covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. She cried, "We didn't steal you. We saved you." "Saved me?" The words echoed. Twisted, wrong. Dad wiped his face and looked at me with a grief I had never seen before. "Your mother, your real mother. She was running from someone dangerous. She begged us to keep you hidden, to raise you as our own. Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. His voice cracked. "Because she said if anyone ever found you, they'd take you, use you to get to her." My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear him. "She left you with us," he said, "not because she didn't love you, but because she thought we could protect you. And we tried. God, we tried." I stumbled back, gripping the wall. "So those men, who were they?" Mom swallowed hard. "The ones your mother was running from." My world shattered. Everything. Every memory, every bedtime story, every birthday was suddenly painted with fear I never saw. "Where is she now?" I whispered. They exchanged a look. That's when I realized they didn't know. They never knew. Dad reached for me, voice breaking. "We didn't raise you to deceive you. We raised you because we loved you, because she asked to love you. But it's time for you to know the truth." For the first time in my life, the house felt unfamiliar, cold, foreign. Not a home, a hiding place, a shelter, a cage, a hostage room. I looked at the couple who raised me, who lied to me, who protected me, who hid me, who kept me, and I didn't know whether to run into their arms or run away from them forever, because the truth I finally understood was this: they didn't kidnap me, they didn't save me, they didn't own me. They were just 2 terrified people trying to keep a promise to a woman who vanished long ago. And now, the people chasing her had finally found me.